Porscheism is a channel that I started for the Porsche enthusiast and the enthusiast in me. I've been a lifelong Porsche owner since my early 20s, and I just want to bring the world to Porsche to people who have maybe never experienced the brand, or people who have and they want to learn more. I hope that I'm teaching people about the product, and I'm going to do more educational videos as we go along in time, as well as really great scenery and really great car videos. But it's really about a brand, and it's about the lifestyle of the Porsche experience. Guys that are into Porsches, and women are into Porsches, are into, fine wines, or wristwatches, anything like mechanical. I've noticed, aviation. Those are all things that are tied to the Porsche experience, and I'm going to try to feature a lot of that on the channel as we go along, and we'll get some great interviews and of different products that a lot of Porsche guys and women buy, and I hope to educate, as I say, and feed my information and my love of the product to you. So my fascination with cars began when I was a young kid, and my dad used to have this really cool Mercedes-Benz, and we used to go for rides on Sundays. He was a pretty busy guy during his working days, so on the weekend we would take rides in his Mercedes, and it was they were memorable times. And I just had a fascination with especially German cars. They're just so well built, and they're like bank vault doors when you shut them. There's just a certain feel about them that I really kind of liked and enjoyed. And as I got older, I got into reading about them. You used to get Car and Drive or Road Track magazine, when magazines were a big thing. And I remember being in high school, and I would be in the library, and they used to have Car and Drive and Road Track, and there was this depiction of a 911 Turbo, and the picture was taken out of the sunroof of the vehicle, and it blurred the scenery. It was a pretty incredible photograph, and it just kind of stuck in my mind all these years, and I can't even believe that I have the car in my garage today. But I guess it really made an impression on me, and I said to myself, I'm going to own one of those cars one day, and here we are. So the funny story about the car that's behind me, this 3.2 liter, is that I bought this car when I worked for a small company in Connecticut. They were a car care product company. The company was called Zymol Wax. Now they're still around today, and they were selling to mostly people who were concours showing their cars, and that sort of thing. And I remember going to the president of the company. I worked very closely with him, and I said, why don't we design a wax that kind of appeals to the racing group of people, the racing community. And so I said, I think we could create, a product and market that product to that group. And so it's a hard thing to do, because racers aren't really about making their cars look pretty; they're making them go fast. And today we have clear film that protects the car and so forth. But back then that didn't exist. So we used a marketing campaign to go after the racing group, and we called it. It was called 200 mile per hour wax. In fact, I have some in my container over here. I still have some of it. But I always wanted a 911, and I was trying to connect with people in the racing community. And back then, I said, well, Porsche has a dealership called Brumos in Jacksonville, Florida, that had their own race team. And Hurley Haywood, who was the vice president of the dealership at the time, I called him and I said, you know, I'd like to basically advertise the company I work for on your race cars, but I'm not able to afford the high price of advertising on that race car. So what if we do a barter? And we do, I give you a pallet of wax and car care products to sell at your dealership parts department. And I could put the Zymol stickers on the 964 race car that you guys are commissioning. And he agreed to it. And at the same time, I said, you know, I'm also looking for my own 911. Do you think you could get me what I'm looking for? And I presented the ideal car that I wanted. And it took a lot of time. And that was back when we didn't have cell phones and instant pictures. They would send photographs by mail. I would look at them, and then I would say, no, 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 no. And then finally, this car came along that's behind me. I didn't want black, because black is so difficult to take care of. But it had every single thing that I was looking for at the time. It had a great history. It happened to be a doctor associated with Hurley. And I flew down to Jacksonville, and it was on the showroom floor, and I bought it. I bought it instantly. And it's still in my garage today, and I loved it as much as I did then, as I do now. I've done, you know, as I've told you in other videos, that I've done a lot of modifications to this car, but not modifications that are not tasteful. They're done as if the factory did them over in Europe. So the car is now sorted, as I like to say, to the standard in which I think the car is absolutely perfect at this point in time. So that's how I got involved with Porsche. It's kind of an interesting story. Thanks to Hurley, thanks to Zymol Wax Company, how that all came about. And here we are today, I don't know, 20-something years later. I think people should trust me on getting them the proper car, or really evaluating their car, because I've got a lot of experience. I have 33 years with Porsche. I started out as a technician, and I moved through being a technician to being a service advisor, assistant service manager, to sales and finance of these vehicles. And being around them and submersing yourself in them, it kind of rubs off on all angles. And I think there's a lot of guys that are in this business that really didn't have the background of the mechanic side. And then there's guys that are in the mechanic side that don't have the sales side. And there are two different vast differences in that world. And I know a lot of people that are in the service side think that they're sales. And I used to think the same thing, like how hard could that be? But there's a lot of things that go into the sale and finance of a vehicle. There's trade-ins, there's evaluations of trade-ins, there's the bank financing portion of it can be a little tricky at times. So there's things that most people don't see. So I think that, given my experience and my love of these cars, and to do the right thing for you, I think you should trust me.